I like the story of Hannah from First Samuel as a good way to remind me of what it means to wait in faith. Hannah story can be related to all of us where we've been praying just for something. Maybe you're praying for a new job. You keep applying and applying. You go on interviews and no one is responding. Or maybe you're single, you want to get married and you're like, this dating pool is jacked up. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Or maybe you're married and you want a child and you are trying and you're doing all the work and nothing is happening. Or maybe you're going through chemo and you're like, I'm going to these doctor's appointment. I want to be done with this sickness. And you're praying, Lord, I'm believing you for healing. I'm believing you for my spouse. I'm believing you for this child. I'm believing you for this job, but nothing is happening. Hannah teaches us what we can do when we are believing God for something, when we're going through a season of barrenness. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, it says, I'm going to read from you verse 4 to 8. It says, on the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. And although he loved Hannah, he would give Hannah only one portion. Because the Lord had closed her womb, and her rival used to provoke her sorely to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as he went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? And am I not more to you than 10 sons? So this is our first problem. Whenever we have something we really want, we have to understand that people may not understand what we're dealing with. Like, this is something that is personal to you. And even if your spouse is in this situation, he or she may not understand how important it is to you. So the first thing Hannah teaches us to understand that people will not understand what you're dealing with. And it's not that they don't care. It's just that people cannot help us sometimes. This is only God can do this. This is a miracle that only God can do. And we have to understand that. Because if we don't understand that, we'll get frustrated with the people around us. How come they don't understand? How come they don't care? How come no one is asking about me? How come no one is worried about me? We put too much attention on people, and that becomes our distraction. So we want them to fix our issue. We want them to care for us. We want them to invite us. We want them to do something. And Hannah is showing us this is what happened, because she had a wonderful husband. She had a wonderful husband, and he was doing everything he can to please her. But yes, she was still happy because he couldn't do anything about that. There are certain situations people cannot help us. Only God can do that. And we need to remember that. So that's the first part. And we also need to understand in verse 10 and 11, 1 Samuel 1, verse 10 through 11, it says that she was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy servant and remember me, and not forget thy maidservant, but will give to thy maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. She made her petition to God. She made her petition to God. I had a situation back in September, and I was just really distressed about it. And a woman, she wasn't even a mentor, but we were having a discussion. And she said, this is why I wake up every day and I read my Bible. She taught me a valuable lesson that day to always make sure I take my concerns and my questions or my petitions to God first. Because oftentimes we'll go to everybody else, but we'll get everyone involved. But we never consider that maybe God is the one that I should talk to. Maybe God is the only person I should talk to. No matter how deep your desire is, maybe it's God who I need to talk to. Because here's what happened. Just like, Hannah told her husband, he didn't understand. Sometimes when we go to other people, not only do they not understand, but they can't help us, number two. And really, they don't care. They don't care. There's Les Brown that said, 80% of people don't care about your problems, and 20% are happy you have those problems. In the position I'm in my life right now, most of my concerns, my first world problems, people don't care. People don't care. And it's not that my feelings are not important. It's not that my concerns are not important. But why waste time telling somebody what my concerns and my needs and my desires are when they can't help? They don't care. So Hannah teaches us that we got to make our petition to God. We got to take our concerns. If you see me every morning, I'm writing in my journal, whatever it is, even if it's just what I'm going to do that day. I'm talking to God about it. I'm praying to God about it because God is the only one who really cares. You can tell me and I'll be sympathetic, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be your problem. I may pray for you, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be your problem. And so if we can take it to the person who can help us, the person who cares. The Bible says, cast your cares unto the Lord, for he cares for you. Guess what? We'll release that responsibility that we put on our family and friends to help us, to care for us. And we can focus on listening to the voice of God on what God is telling us to do. So that's number 2. She made her petition to God. The third thing Hannah does is that she kept her prayer between her and God. It says verse 12 to 18, chapter 1. We're still in chapter 1. 12 to 18, it says, as she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart, only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. Therefore, Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, how long will you be drunk? Put away your wine from you. But Hannah answered, no, my Lord, I am a woman sorely troubled. I have drunken neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your maidservant as a base woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. Then Eli answered, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have made to him. And she said, let your maidservant find favor in your eyes. Then the woman went her way and ate, and her countenance was no longer sad. Even though she had this interaction with the priest, Eli, she didn't tell her what my issues were, what I was concerned about. I had to learn this the hard way. Stop telling people your prayer requests. Like, I don't do prayer requests anymore. Whatever's on my heart, I'm not telling it to anyone. And the reason why is because I remember I told you before, people don't care and they can't help. But to some people, it's not that important. What you're requesting is trivial. It's minute. It's not, nothing annoys me more than when I'm trying to share something with someone and they're like kind of brushing me off. I'll be like, I'm shut down. And so I've learned to not do that. I don't have to shut down anymore if I don't waste my time telling you what I want. If you cannot help me, if you cannot help me, if you cannot direct me to the right on the right path and do something for me, I don't see the reason of telling you what I want. You can't help me anyway. You can't do it. And if you do it, then that means I got to owe you. So Hannah teaches us that we got to keep our prayers between us and God. I know if you're single, you probably done the mistake that I may probably told your pastor, probably told the ladies in your singles group how badly you want to get married, but they probably don't even agree with you. They probably don't even believe that it's possible. There are so many negative people who go to church that you would be really, really sick to know how sad they are because they have no faith. They're just showing up because that's what they're supposed to do. Go to church, pray, but their hearts are far from God. So I don't even bother. I don't tell people what I'm praying for. Again, I write it in my journal and tell God, I pray about it. I'll tell AI. I'll have AI pray with me before I call somebody, be like, hey, girl, hey, bro, whatever. I'm not doing that because they don't care. And you don't know how strong their faith are. You don't know what people believe. They could just be breathing and that's it. They don't care. And so I've learned to keep your prayers between God because then you don't have to deal with their negativity. And the last thing Hannah does is that she keeps her promise to God. Verse 19 says, they rose early in the morning and worshiped before the Lord. Then they went back to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. And in due time, Hannah conceived and bore a son. And she called his name Samuel, for she said, I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, as soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him, that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and abide there forever. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord establish his word. So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine. And she brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, and the child was young. So that's 1 Samuel 19, verse 24. Why was this important? Too often people make promises to God and they do not honor it. And the Bible talks about that. It's better for you to never have made a promise than to make a promise to God and don't honor it. So one of the things I do is I don't make promises to God. I do not say, Lord, if you get me out of this situation, I'll do X, Y, Z, because I know I probably won't. And I don't want to build that kind of relationship where God knows my heart and God knows, Barbara, you're lying. You're not going to do that. So I rather not make any promises to God. But if you do make a promise to God, you better honor it. You better honor it. You better make sure you follow through whatever commitment you made. Some people, they say, well, God, if you give me this job, I'm going to tithe all the time. And as soon as the job starts, they forget all about that. And then they wonder why they get fired. Because when you make a promise to God, God expects you to pay it. God expects you to pay it. So if you don't pay it, guess what? You forfeit that promise. Then that contract we just agreed on is void. So I've learned I don't make any promises to God. And if you are a person who tend to try to make promises and hope that your prayers will be answered more clearly or rapidly, shame on you, because you should not be making any promises to God that you cannot honor. You should not be saying, God, I will do this. I will do that. I promise to honor or obey my husband. And as soon as you get married, you're disrespecting the man. I tell you, God will not be mocked. God will not be mocked. So do not make promises to God. But if you do, make sure you honor it, because if you don't, you will lose what you just asked for. A lot of people will tell you they probably don't make the connection. Like, why did I lose my job? Because you made a promise to God and you did not honor it. God is not a man that he should lie. But guess what? You should not lie to God. So don't go around making promises that you cannot keep or you have no intention to keep, because you will pay for that. Okay. That's my warning. Thanks for watching. Bye.